We will use this crisis as a stepping stone for a brighter future. You know, it's very important that we continue on, we help these people, and we continue as WIZO for more than 100 years more. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest of today, Mr. Ron Agam. Ron is a French-Israeli painter, photographer, artist, and humanitarian. A very good friend of WIZO from the beginning of his career. I cannot believe, and I reminded him yesterday, it's 26 years ago, in 1994, that WIZO Miami showed his photographs at the wall at WIZOM Gallery in Coral Gables. In 2012, Ron participated in our auction for the Tzedakah boxes. And in 2018, Ron again participated in A Brighter World with a beautiful, beautiful world, adding to the success of our fundraising. Ron's photographs and artwork are collected and exhibited around the world. In 2009, Ron received France's highest civic recognition for his photography, the Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. His artwork is bold, intuitive, three-dimensional, mesmerizing kinetic art, characterized by kinetic imagery and optical elements that engage the viewers and appear to move when the viewers move, full of geometry, abstractions, and vivid colors. I invite Ron to share with us his studio and introduce his magical art. Ron, up to you.
Hi, Shalom from New York, from Queens actually. Shalom to everybody. I'm very humbled to speak to all of you today. This is a very difficult moment for all of us, but I'm going to try to give you some enjoyment for the next hour to talk about things that are different than what we are seeing every day today in the news. I reached out to Lillian a few days ago and mentioned my interest in doing something with WIZO Florida. I've been a friend of Lillian and Rebecca now for many years. So here we're going to start. I'm in Long Island City, which is a neighborhood of Queens. You probably all know what's happening in Queens today. It's a very difficult time for everybody. And my studio is over here in Long Island City. And for the past few weeks, I left my apartment to stay in the studio because I can at least create and work and be available, you know, to do many other things, but also for security reasons, I feel it's more, it's safer to be than to be in Manhattan at the present time. So this is where I work. It's my studio, as you can see. I'm using a laptop, so I don't know if you see better, but these are the images. So this is where I spend most of my time here now. And as you see, there's a lot of, this is one of my tables where where I work. And I'm taking this tour with you. This is a painting that I just was working on now during the pandemic. I just started this. And the interesting thing about this painting is that it took me about a month to do it because I took a lot of time and detail to work precisely on this work. And the reason why I mentioned the issue of time is because time has changed in a very strong way, where things that we took for granted before, today we take more conscientious realization about the value of time. And for me, I saw that when I was starting to work on this painting, or this painting here that you can see. I just take a lot more, I think I take a lot more depth in everything that I do. Not that I didn't take more depth before, but it takes a totally different impression for me, a different realization. This is a work which I'm showing you here. It's in perspective. And this is a series of paintings which I did, which is called Disruption. And when I was doing that a few years ago, the concept of disruption was something that really captured my imagination, because I said everything in our society, in our civilization today, is disrupted at a speed and acceleration that we never experienced before. And it had to do, with technology. It had to do with many things that we were not really conscious about, but I don't know if we were the victim of it sometimes. Sometimes, we were the happy protagonist of that. But the idea of disruption was something that I wanted to express. And I took it to the square, because the square is the most stable, most realistic idea of how to represent a geometric shape. It's something, when you look at a square, you say somebody is square, there's an element of stability, there's an element of continuity, there's an element of immortality to some extent. And I looked at this idea, and I shaped it, I changed it, I dispersed it, I did everything I can to express in the painting this concept that is disruption. And now, these past few weeks, it took a totally different meaning in my head about what I really did and what I saw in this. And now we all are living this disruption in a way that no one could have ever expected. So when I did this painting, which I started a few years ago, it was really innocent. But it was not so innocent, because subconsciously, if something inspired me to that degree, there probably was a reason. And they say many times that artists see things way before they happen. And they say, the artist is crazy, the artist is this, they see things in a different way. And that's why in art and in culture, there's so many things that represent events that happened, in history, like the painting of Picasso, Guernica, and it was done during the Civil War in Spain. And that painting basically marked the entire era of that time. So as you can see, many times artists depict stories, and they become iconic because of their value and their timing. So this is one of these things. As you can see here, I'm also, there's this large painting here in gold with a gold background. And I basically wanted to express, the galaxy, the stars, the earth, everything that, is in space. So I did this painting, and here it is today. I look at it and I say, where are we in this entire galaxy? We mentioned before that I did a pushke. I did a pushke for WIZOom, and here you can see this pushke. I'm going to. I did. If you see, with the colors of the rainbow and the sky, and one of my ideas, and I started to work on it, and I said, I would love to do a pushke that every Jewish home will have, because more than ever, you know, we are living in the world of Instagram and we're living in the world of digital world where everything is about us. And I said to counterbalance what is happening, I wanted to reintroduce to many of the Jewish homes that it used to be a tradition to have a pushke, because that pushke in a home today, the parents, they show their children that they're putting a coin, they're putting a dollar, they're putting something, and charity is probably one of the most important things that we have as human beings, and to re-educate, you know, millions of children that sometimes don't know what it means to be charitable because we are kind of lost in our civilization about, you know, the idea of me, 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 me. So I want to counterbalance, and that is one of my important projects that I hope I will be able to conduct. These are some of the models that I have, that I do, and from there I do many paintings after. And I start sometimes by these models, and then they go and they become much larger paintings. Here I'm working on something now, on some drawings, as you can see. There's something interesting which I never did before, but I'm going to show it to you because it has some sort of a value. I did this drawing which I never did before. Actually, you know what it is? It is dry paint that I scrap from the rest of the unused paint that I have, and I put it on the paper, and it gets to be this. I've never done it before, but it's not really my style, but it's an experiment, and I kind of like it because it's very different. But this is the time where I can experiment because I have so much time now. There is something which I did this work, which is it's a 3D image of a star. As you can see, it's three-dimensional. There is movement and there is depth. As you probably know, some of you know my father's work, and my father also started something 40 years ago, which was the Agamograph, where an image printed on a paper moves and changes. I took this idea and went into a different way, in the way of creating something three-dimensional with depth and with movement. And I've done a series of images like that over the years, and some of them are about 5 to 6 times the size of this particular size. They're more like 50 inch, 40 inch. These are works of art which are editions, and they sell all over the world. I did this now. You can see it's a heart. It's very symbolic that I'm showing you a heart and a Star of David. And that particular piece that I'm holding now, the Conference of Presidents of major Jewish organizations led by Malcolm Online, they came to see me about 3 months ago. They said, we're planning a visit to the Kingdom of Saudi. It will be a first time since 25 years ago that we are leading a delegation to meet with the royal family and the leaders of the kingdom. And they asked me if I could help them by donating a series of works that will be donated to the king and to the crown prince and other very important people in Saudi. And I said, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you this. And they say, oh, no, no, we cannot take this. This is too strong. That is not going to work. So Malcolm saw this heart and he said, this is something that we could do. So he took this art, we framed it very nicely, a couple of them, and they gave it to the king, to MBS, to his brother KBS, who is the Deputy Defense Minister of Saudi, to some very important people. And apparently Malcolm called me when he gave it to MBS, the Crown Prince, and the Crown Prince looked at it and he said, wow, I love it, and he called all his people and they ended it in his office immediately. This is the same guy that spent $500 million last 2 years ago to buy the Mona Lisa, the painting of Leonardo da Vinci that was auctioned in one of the big auction houses. It was kind of interesting. And then they went to Israel and they gave one to President Rivlin. All these images, you can see them on my Instagram. But I wanted to share that with you because I think, you know, there's a, you know, sometimes art and politics mix. And this is one of these time where the medium of art was, you know, was very important, you know, in opening a conversation, because when Malcolm gave a heart, which has a very strong significance, and he gives it, you know, to a man of such importance as the Crown Prince or the King, it takes a totally different dimension, because those are universal messages. You don't need to be Jewish, Christian, Hindu. You don't need to live in Brazil or live in Russia. You immediately see what it is. And when it's so unique, you know, the impact of it is very, very strong. Here you see some other works. All models. Now I'm going to take you to another room. This is my little dog here, actually. I don't see him. Yeah, he's sleeping. His name is Ruski. He's my companion. He's very cute. And here it is. Here it is something very very special for me, because as you see, you see this big star, Star of David, and next to it there's a heart. If you all remember, there was this massacre in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue. And I was starting to work on a star like that, the first time, big one, it's about 6 feet. And I said, what's happening when you are a small Jewish boy and you see everything that's happened around you, you see this anti-Semitism, you see these murders, and I wanted to create a symbol of hope so that this little Jewish boy or Jewish girl can have confidence in the future through this symbol. Because most of the time, you know, a symbol means a lot. And I used colors that I've never used before to express hope. So you see a lot of pink and bright colors, and I did a series of works around it. And I hope that one of them will end up at the Tree of Life Synagogue, because I believe, you know, it's a really strong message of hope, using our universal symbol that depicts Judaism and Jews in a very consequent way. So I will show you more, and also there is on my Instagram, you can look at a lot of them. I did a series of them. And next to it now, you have the heart. And when I did the heart, it's because it was always a symbol of love for me. But I took it to another level because I created this almost wall sculpture with colors that are very strong, and very strong in the sense of optimism. And you see, today when we talk about disruption and we talk about what's happening, we see the importance, the meaning of love, we see how consequential it is, and to spread love, because in times like that, more than any other time, we realize the importance of this feeling. So here I put it, into action as a painting, as a wall sculpture, and something that really takes a totally different perspective in this particular time. I mean, what do we have which is more important than love today in terms of sharing? We're ready to share our love with people that we don't even know anymore. We're ready to share love with, with entire continents in ways that we rarely have expressed. So, for me, maybe it was an issue of time or timeliness, but it's very important. As you can see, there's another heart in the background. And you see this red sculpture. I was commissioned by a hospital in Baltimore, which is actually the first Jewish hospital in the country. I think it was created in 1870. The management of the hospital, the doctors and the fundraising asked me about a few months ago to create artwork that could be used, for fundraising. And I did something that is pretty special also, but they also asked me to create a sculpture for the entrance. And this hospital, for what it is, wanted to mark, their anniversary. I think it's the 150th anniversary, a big number like that. So I created this sculpture, which, as you see, this oval shape, they are like caresses. They are like signs of love. They're, the way you caress somebody. And again, it's very timely for a hospital to have something of this nature, because, when you are hurt and when you are trying to show your grandchildren or your children that you love them, what do? You take your hand and you caress them, because you want to be affectionate. So what I did here is I created these huge caresses that are there to signify the importance of this emotion on everybody that comes in and out from a hospital. And I did it in red, because red is the color of life. Without blood, we can't live. So this is a little bit, an expression of something. This is another painting on which I'm working now. You can see. There's a lot of work on the floor here, because Lillian, as you see here, this is a flower. And I will show you later, there's some works that I did in flowers. Again, here you can see some painting. Here it's, again, the square. It's unfinished painting because I'm adding some very exciting elements into this. And I cannot show it right now, but this is a work in progress about the square and the colors, the way it is, but it's not yet finished. Here you see another of these paintings that I told you before, with the concept of disruption. You see this off-balance sign where the same illustration of what I told you before. Here, there is a work of art of flowers that I did many years ago. This is the ranunculus, and it's with gold leaf all around the flower. This is another room here. As you see, there's a lot of works here. And this room has about 12 very large black and white paintings. And you could see an animation of that on my website. When you go into the website you will have a movie showing all these paintings in a very clean environment, because now it's a little bit of a mess here because I changed the nature of the space. But all these 12 paintings are destined, you know, to be shown in a museum or a big art gallery. And they are essentially an expression of my research around the colors of black and white and geometric shapes. Some of these paintings are really extraordinary, and they are hanging on in the studio here. If you see that big painting of triangles, they're covered, you know, with some of my other paintings, but there's a crazy story about this thing. I put these symbols of triangles, focusing essentially on the idea of triangles. And I had that painting hanged there for about a year. And I was looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. One day, somebody came to me and said, Ron, you know, there's a Star of David in this painting. And I said, no kidding. And I created that painting and I didn't see it. I had to witness the visit of somebody that saw in this painting a Star of David. I don't know if you could see it really here, but you could see a part of it. But you know, it's covered by all these paintings, and I never intended to do Zoom events with anyone. And so that's, you know, everything happened now, but you can at least have an impression of what it represents. There's a lot of paintings here. You see this big circle also. This is something that I really love to do, these circles, and the expression of what it is comes in many different ways. And I paint with acrylic painting, and I work the medium of acrylic in different ways with all kinds of different texture. And then when it's finished, I apply a special resin that increases the intensity of the colors to a degree that you would not be able to do if you just apply acrylic in a regular way. This increases the light on the colors and gives you this really very impressive presence in terms of the colors. I want to just mention something. When I started to do this about 10 years ago, and I had a show in Chelsea with large-scale paintings of that size, but different things, I think I was probably the only one in New York using it. Many years after, I think it also happened that other artists were interested to use that medium of epoxy, and it is what it is, but I think I was the first one in New York to do that. This is very symbolic here to us. This I did many years ago, and I wanted to show the brotherhood between the United States and Israel. So I created that image. And actually, this image, there's somebody very, very important in this country that saw it and said, oh, I'd like to use it as the symbol of who we are. And I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but this idea of illustrating, you know, the brotherhood, the sisterhood between the United States and Israel is something that for me was very important. Rebecca mentioned earlier that I got the biggest honor from the French government, which is called the Legion of Honor. But the reason why I got it was not just because of my art, but essentially was because the president of the time, President Sarkozy, wanted to honor me because I was one of the most important links, as he said, between France and the United States, and in particular the Jewish community, because I did a lot of reaching out between, you know, France and the United States, and in particular the Jewish community. So it was not just because I was an artist, but it was also because of my interest in bringing people together. And that was something very important for me. One of my very famous work when I was a photographer only is that image of a boy at the wall. It's called At the Wall. There was a book published about it, which was prefaced by Mayor Giuliani and Madonna at the time. There's a long story with Madonna, which I don't want to get into it now, but these are some of the, you know. Those are all kinds of, you can see. I would really need about 5 hours, not 1 hour, to explain and talk about every one of the works here. But considering the time that we have today, that would be easy. One of the things that I did as a photographer on September the 11th, 2001, I was in my studio in New York, which was a few blocks away from the World Trade Center. When I saw what happened, I took all my cameras and an assistant, and I ran down to ground zero. And I was there all day from morning to night, and I shot about 1,000 pictures, which many of them became the property of the 9/11 Museum. And many of these pictures were pictures that were published all over the world, because I was one of maybe, I guess, 10 photographers that were at ground zero while this thing happened. This is a picture of two firefighters around 12:30 on the southwest corner, and that firefighter tells his friend that his brother-in-law succumbed earlier in the fallout of one of the buildings. I know that because these photographs, some of them were exposed in a show in New York called Iris New York, which was on Prince Street, that lasted about a year. And many people came to see that show, where I had a lot of photographs also, and they mentioned the story. And I met with this guy and I met with this guy, and they told me what was happening. So it's one of these things also. This is a prototype for a building that I was doing in Brooklyn, where I did the entire artwork. And this is in the center of Brooklyn. This project, I worked on that for 2.5 years, and then the developer, after saying he loves it, he said, we're out of budget, we're not going to be able to do it now, maybe later. So I don't know, but this is the way things turn in life sometimes. As you can see, there are some artworks, as I showed you before. This is a 3D also, but much larger. This is a perspective I gave you of this room. And this is an artwork of a flower, and this is about 7 or 8 feet large. You can see something here also. And another thing here. This is a painting in movement. I'm holding a laptop, so if it's not very stable, excuse me, but this is all I have here. One more painting in distraction here. And more artwork as it should be. This is the book I told you about at the wall. And this was about 25 years ago, I think. And in the back, you can see the preface of Madonna, and Mayor Giuliani at the time when he was mayor invited me about 2 times to do major exhibition of my photographs at City Hall and at the residence. So I'm going to go back to my room here. This is an interesting piece. It's called Ein Sof, and a piece which is about 10 times the size of that was exhibited this year at the Jewish Museum in Amsterdam, a big show on Kabbalah, and it was the main artwork, the main focus, and some of the most famous painters and sculptors in the world. Marc Chagall was part of it. Many big names. But when I went to visit the museum in Amsterdam this summer, everybody told me your piece is the focal point of the exhibition. You can see it on the Instagram, and you can see also on the website, I suppose, of the Jewish Museum. And that for me was a very, very interesting situation where I was the main attraction in a show that attracted some of the most important artists in the world. And that piece was the big success of the show. And it was very special for me, this piece. The concept of Ein Sof is what attracted, the curator of the exhibition. And they worked with me for 2 years to try to get that painting in Amsterdam. So, I think I'm open for questions if there is any questions. I try to do my best, to give you an overall outlook of my studio now. There's a lot more works, but they're not accessible because they're in storage now. But this is really, where I am now. Rebecca asked me for some questions.
Yes.
I answered them.
I don't know if you hear me, Ron.
I do hear you, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the questions that I had, you answered in an unbelievable way. It was really a treat. There were a lot of things that I did not know about you, but as I did know at the beginning, as I introduced you, you're a wonderful artist and a humanitarian, which is very important. You told me I was going to ask you highlights of your career, but I think you answered that one, or you have something more to add in what have been
highlights. I just started, so there's no more highlights. To be an artist, I'm not looking, what I'm looking is to continuously be able to create. And 9 years ago, I was on my deathbed in Mount Sinai in New York with a very serious infection that I didn't realize I had, but I arrived there, and for 4 days, 3 days, they gave me all the antibiotics in the world and it didn't work. And they said, we don't know if it's gonna work, but let's try the last one. And I survived, and then I went back home and I was on IVs for 3 months. And I overcome that, and the doctor told me, I think that from now on you should rest and don't work so hard. When I came out from the hospital, I followed his advice, but I redoubled and tripled the amount of work that I do, because I said that was a gift, and I will use that gift, to be even more creative than I was before. So Hashem gave me this opportunity to to do what I like, and this is the best period of my life in terms of a human being, because I really love what I do. Hello? Any question? Batya asked me a question about if I paint figuratively. Yes, I do. I do portraits, I do things like this, but I wouldn't call that, the essence of what I do. Since I came from the world of photography into the world of painting, uh, my, uh, my, um, my, my passion was also driven by combining technology into my art. As you saw before when I showed you this star and the heart, these are technologies which we pushed to a level that it's become art. But I work a lot with the computer. A lot of my work, I often start, with as if I was holding a brush, and I will go strictly with the computer.
Hello?
As you can see here, I have a drawing board. So it's, actually, I wrote an article many years ago, and I said, what if Picasso or Andy Warhol had a computer to work with when they started their careers? Today, we are challenged with technology, and we can use it in ways that maybe save a little bit of time, but gives you a lot more possibilities in terms of the creativity in ways that people didn't have before. Somebody asked me, I started a photographer and I decided to be a painter. How much did my father influence me? Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, 10 years ago, I was commissioned by Bernard Arnault, the chairman of LVMH, you're all familiar with LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, to do a book on photography illustrating all the different artisans that LVMH is working with in the United States. I said I was honored because this is one of the most important people in the world, and especially in the world of art. Many of you were in Paris and you saw the Louis Vuitton Foundation with the building of Frank Gehry there. And I started the project, and within 2 months I said, this is really not for me, because basically I was a photographer documenting. There was not much art into that, except there was prestige because of the people involved. So I said I would prefer to stop this and do something else. So when I called them and I said that, they've sent me a big check before, and I didn't cash the check, so it was easy to give it back. But I said, no, it's not for me. So nobody does things like that when you have, one of the most important people in the world commissioning you for something, and then you say, no, I prefer to do something else. You have to be mad, you have to be crazy, you have to be insane. And that's what happened. Everybody told me, you are crazy, you are insane. You have one of the most important people in the world commissioning you something, which means that for the rest of your life, you'll probably be protected by him. And I said, no. And then I fell into a very severe depression, because everybody told me I was a fool, and probably maybe I was. And that was the moment where I started to take drawings and paintings and paper and started to draw, because I was so low. I was so depressed. I was basically, in a state of mind that I totally lost any confidence in myself. And I went into a world challenging something that I never thought I had any talent, is to be a painter. And especially when you have a father like I have, I said, it's like as if Einstein had a son and the same son wants to go into physics and try to at least have a presence in the world of physics. So imagine me trying to be a painter when you have a father like that, and you didn't want. And I never felt, I just did it for myself, and slowly people started to come and look at the work, and people liked it and invited me to do shows, and people started to buy, and it happened, and it was. It really was divine providence, because who, at the age of 52, starts something and has the potential to develop it to where I am today, which is, in a very different position than where I was 10 years ago. But it was a lot of hard work, because I do work 16 to 18 hours a day. I spend a lot of time in my studio. Some of my favorite artists that influenced me. There's a string of artists, starting from the Russian constructivist, artists like Lisitsky, Malevich. When I was a child, Albers, the artist Albers, when I was a child, I had my bar mitzvah, and my father's dealer asked me, art dealer, asked me, what do I want for my bar mitzvah? And I said, I'd love to have an Albers. So, Joseph Albers. So she did give me an Albers for my bar mitzvah. And of course, how can I not say that I have no influence from my father? My father, for me, is a huge influence, especially, the man is a genius, like incredible genius. And being around him all my life, as a child, as 3, 4 years old, painting next to him, this is the images that I look back now, and I see that things that I didn't even realize had any importance became so important, because many years later they came into reality. Because a lot of the things that is created, a lot of things that is done, a lot of the messages that is sent are something that was, that I live today in a way that is just incredible.
Ron, do you hear me?
Yeah, I asked her if the leftover painting, somebody asked me, because I showed you this little drawing. And I don't know, but it's interesting, because it's really interesting medium, and the way I do it, it's, I don't know, we'll see. Every artists have very different periods sometimes, and it could develop into something. Yeah, somebody asked me about my father's work and his representation of Israel. I want to say something extremely important. For the past year, one of the most important museums, one of the 3 most important art museums in the world, which is the Centre Pompidou in Paris, they were planning to open an exhibition of my father's work in April, now, till August. And of course, since everything is closed, they had to postpone it. And I feel for my father so badly. He's now in Israel in his apartment. He's 92, closed by himself. No help, nobody, except that my sister is bringing him food every morning and every afternoon next to the door. And this man at 92 has to go grab the food, because at 92, if God forbid, something, like somebody approaches him and he gets it, I don't know what could happen. So people ask me about sketches. Yeah, I do a lot of sketches, of course. I do a lot of sketches. Yeah, any other questions? Any questions? Rebecca?
Hello?
Yeah?
Hello?
Yeah, you hear me?
I can hear you, but
I hear you.
Lillian, can you hear me? No. Muted me.
What do we do, Rebecca?
Yes, we hear you, Becca. Continue speaking.
I'm ready to answer questions if there are any questions. I read some of the questions on the chat. Ruti is asking me a question.
Yeah, Ron, in any case, I want to take the opportunity also to thank you for doing this for us today. I believe everybody who is here has a great interest in what it is that you do, and also your whole history and what your influences have been, and of course, including your father. May he live to be till 180, inflation and all, right? In any case, if you're looking at the chat, there's one last note from somebody who just logged in 1 hour late. I want you to know that we've been recording this, so we'll be glad to share this with Marcia a little bit later. And I believe that this is pretty much all the time we have left for this. Do you have any ending words, any parting words for us, Ron? I have one more little video that I would like to share with everyone. It's a very feel-good video. It's very short, two minutes. But if you have any parting word for us, let's end with that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I want to wish everybody a good Passover. And most important, stay safe, stay home. No, don't take any risk for no reason. And Am Israel Chai. Am Israel Chai. Am Israel Chai. I love you all.
Amen. Amen. Okay, here we go, guys. that was just to give you all a little taste of what WIZO is. WIZO is 100 years old this year. And so thank you again all for coming. Thank you, Ron, for being here and giving us an hour of beauty and happiness. And thank you, Becca, for hosting. And thank you all. Have a wonderful end of Chol Hamoed and of Chag Pesach Kasher V'Sameach. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Ron. Bye, everyone.